The Voyager 2 spacecraft has finally bid farewell to our solar system, and it's entered the realm of the unknown.
There are moments in our journey through the stars when silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a presence in itself. It presses against you like a weight, heavy and ancient, filled with questions too big for words. And for nearly 50 years, Voyager 2 drifted in that silence, a lone fragment of Earth cast into the void, never meant to return, never meant to be seen again. It left us with a whisper of hope and a sliver of golden memory, and then it simply kept going. Until now. Something has changed, something impossible, something that no one was prepared to face. Voyager 2 has turned back, not by command, not by some automated failsafe, not by accident. It turned, and in that moment every system monitoring its path froze. The engineers, the scientists, the dreamers who had spent years watching that tiny signal from 12 billion miles away, they watched that signal shift, twist, almost hesitate, like a breath held, like a glance stolen backward. What could possibly make a machine, built in the 1970s, launched before some of us were even born, turn its gaze away from the infinite ahead and back toward the dark it came from? The answer lies in the silence that isn't so silent anymore. For months, Voyager 2 had been sending routine data, gentle, predictable readings, a steady hum of information, the kind that lulls even the most vigilant minds into calm. Beyond the reach of our sun, past the edge of the solar wind, it floated in the nothingness we once believed to be lifeless. Peaceful, but peace can be a mask. At 3:16 UTC, that mask cracked. Not with an explosion, not with noise, but with a quiet shift in Voyager's orientation, so small it might have gone unnoticed. But it wasn't random. It wasn't part of any protocol, and Voyager shouldn't have been capable of it at all. No AI, no autopilot, just ancient circuits and fading memory. And yet, it turned. For a moment, its antenna faced Earth, and for a heartbeat longer, it seemed to wait. And then, the signal came through. What it carried wasn't just data, it was a tremor, a warning, a fingerprint left behind by something watching in the dark. Magnetic field readings, surging, particle detectors, alive after years of sleep. And the most unsettling of all, a rhythmic signal. Not static, not randomness, but order, a pattern. It pulsed, once, twice, again, measured, intentional. It echoed with precision, like a voice without a mouth, speaking in a language Voyager was never built to understand, and yet it did. For a probe launched in an era of cassette tapes and rotary phones, Voyager 2 had no business receiving or reacting to something like this. But it did more than react. It responded, not with words, with action, with that turn, that impossible turn. Behind it, there had been nothing but the emptiness of deep space, nothing to see, nothing to fear. But now something had emerged. Close, too close, and worse, hidden until now. You could feel it in the room at Mission Control. The air changed, voices dropped. A cold realization crept in as monitors lit up with signals no one had ever seen before. The sense of awe, the kind that makes your hands tremble and your breath catch, wasn't from beauty. It was from knowing something is there, and it sees you. And then came the noise, not random, not corrupted, but structured, intentional, like a coded thought stitched into binary. Engineers ran every test they knew, and none of them fit. This wasn't cosmic interference. It wasn't a malfunction. It was a message, not to us, but through us. And through it all, Voyager 2 kept drifting. But something behind it had already crossed a line we didn't even know was there. Not a border of light or gravity, a threshold of awareness. And in turning back, Voyager didn't just reveal that it had been followed. It revealed that we'd been noticed. The kind of notice that doesn't come with sound or light, just stillness. Deliberate and unshakable, like a figure standing in the dark of your doorway, saying nothing, just watching. It is one thing to wonder if we're alone in the universe. It is another to feel the weight of a gaze from beyond everything we know. And Voyager felt it. Now we do too. There's a peculiar kind of fear that creeps in, not with screams, but with silence. Not with violence, but with understanding. At mission control, no one spoke. Not really. Voices became whispers. Fingers hovered over keyboards, afraid that even a single keystroke might disrupt whatever delicate thing had just happened. Voyager 2 was still sending data, but not like before. Some of the readings looked like noise, but others were painfully structured, like watching raindrops fall in perfect intervals or hearing a heartbeat that wasn't human. Buried in the signal were numbers, repeating, fractal patterns that curved back on themselves. Code, yes, but it was more than that. It was elegant, binary but layered, recursive, as though someone, was folding thoughts into lines of light. And in those signals, there was something deeply human and utterly alien all at once. The feeling you get when you stumble across something in the woods that shouldn't be there. A footprint too large, a sound too sharp. It wasn't malevolent, but it knew we were watching. It wanted us to know that. Voyager's plasma wave instruments, long dormant, were now humming with energy. And then the ripple came. Not in the transmission, but in the very fabric of space around it. The data showed disturbances that no model could explain. Space itself, bent. Not warped by gravity or heat, something else. As if the universe had twitched, recoiling from something we still couldn't see. And behind Voyager, still trailing it, was the source. Nothing visible. No light, no mass, no known object. But the disruption, the echo of presence, was undeniable. It hadn't come out of nowhere. It had always been there, hidden in the quiet, tucked inside the folds of what we assumed was nothing. We had always assumed that if we encountered life out there, it would send us a message, a signal, something loud enough to cross the stars and hit our satellites with triumphant clarity. But what Voyager 2 encountered wasn't a voice from far away. It was something right behind it, close, watching, moving when we weren't looking. And then came the neutrino burst. High energy, focused, precise, detected by the Ice Cube Observatory in Antarctica at almost the exact moment Voyager turned. It was as if the universe had drawn a line, right there, in the cold emptiness beyond the sun, and something had stepped across it. The origin of the burst? The direction Voyager had just traveled. But the anomaly, whatever it was, remained behind it. That's what haunted the mission team the most. This wasn't some passive cosmic event. This was a response. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the signal shifted again. For 22 minutes, the data became something else. It wasn't just telemetry anymore. It was alive, or it felt that way. Engineers described it like watching language learn to speak. Code that rewrote itself, learning from its own mistakes, its own rhythm, a language born in real time. And then it stopped. Like someone had closed a book they weren't sure we were ready to read. But it didn't go quiet. Not entirely. Because even after the instruments leveled out, even after Voyager resumed its normal posture and turned its face back toward the stars, one thing remained. A symbol. It appeared again and again in the final frame. A geometric pattern. Simple, clean, and utterly unknown. 3 spirals, interlocking. Not chaotic, not decorative. Purposeful. It didn't match any known language, art, or iconography from Earth. And yet, it felt familiar. Like something you've seen once in a dream and never forgotten. Something primal. A shape you don't understand but recognize. It wasn't there by accident. It was placed, left behind. Embedded like a signature. Like a calling card etched into the last moment of contact. And what chilled the team more than anything wasn't just the shape itself. It was the way it lingered. Every few minutes, as Voyager continued drifting, that symbol would reappear in its transmissions. Not corrupted data, not background noise, but as if Voyager itself was remembering, repeating, almost like it was waiting for an answer. Back on Earth, Nobel laureates, astrophysicists, and deep space specialists gathered in urgent briefings. And for the first time in years, they didn't come to speculate on the possibility of contact. They came to ask a question none of them ever wanted to face. What do we do when contact has already happened? Because that's what this was. Not an invasion, not a declaration, but contact. Not asked for, not foreseen, and not equal. Something touched Voyager 2, not in the way we touch a device, not physically, but in a way that suggests curiosity, intent, and restraint. Like testing the temperature of water before stepping in, like reaching out just far enough to be felt. And Voyager responded. That response changed everything, because now we know. We are not waiting for first contact anymore. It has already begun. You could almost believe it hadn't happened, that the moment passed like a strange dream, that the signal was noise, that the symbol was a glitch, that Voyager 2 simply turned, briefly, randomly, and that it was all coincidence. But you'd be lying to yourself, because some truths don't scream. They just wait, and now that waiting feels different. Voyager 2 drifts onward, silent again, routine again. The sensors have calmed. The instruments report nothing unusual, no new anomalies, no further symbols. But the data from that brief event, it hasn't stopped speaking. Scientists still comb through every fragment, replaying the moment Voyager turned, parsing the code, comparing the spiral to anything, everything in our recorded history. But nothing fits. And maybe that's the answer in itself. It doesn't belong to us. It was never for us. And that's the most unsettling part. This wasn't a message we intercepted. It was a glance, a reflex, a sign that something out there noticed us long before we knew where to look, and chose just this once to let us feel it. What Voyager experienced may not have been intentional in the way we think of it. It may not have been an attempt to make contact at all. It could have been something else entirely. A scan, a test, a quiet breath of something ancient brushing against the corner of our world, and then moving on. But that movement, however brief, has shattered a wall we thought would stand forever. Because now we live with the knowledge, not the hope, not the theory, but the knowledge that something else is out there. Something capable of reaching across the darkness. Something precise, something careful and aware. The question that hangs heavy now isn't, what is it? It's why us? Why now? For decades, we thought the greatest fear was being alone, that we would search the universe and find nothing waiting for us. No signals, no civilizations, just dust and silence. But the real fear, the one that sits deep in your chest when the lights are off and the world is quiet, is the fear that something has been watching all along and chose not to speak until now. Because Voyager 2 turned back, not because it was damaged, not because it lost its way, but because something reached out. And in that moment of recognition, that fragile pause in the eternal dark, it responded. And then, silence. Not the kind that means absence, the kind that means attention, like a breath held, like an eye unblinking, like a presence just beyond the veil. It's strange how something so small, an old machine from Earth, wandering through the void, can feel so suddenly, overwhelmingly human. Because that's what Voyager 2 has become now. Not just a probe, not just data, a witness. It is the only one of us to see that shadow, to feel that ripple, to bear the mark of something we cannot yet name. And in turning back, it delivered to us a truth older than time. We are no longer unseen. No ships in the sky, no broadcasts through the stars, no bright lights, just a symbol, a pattern, a ripple, and a turn. And now, every moment, every signal that comes from that probe is received with a different kind of listening, a different kind of fear, not of attack, but of indifference. Because whatever touched Voyager 2 did so with restraint, not to threaten, not to reveal itself, just to remind us that the universe is vast and not empty. It never was. So we listen, we wait, we ask questions we don't yet have the language to answer, and we carry that image, the spirals, the silence, the impossible turn, with us into whatever future awaits. Because something looked at us through Voyager's eyes, and we looked back, and that changes everything.